Let's be real. Buying or selling a home is one of the biggest, most stressful, and most expensive things you'll ever do. And right in the middle of all that chaos, there's a simple question that most of us completely forget to ask. Who is my real estate agent really working for? You might think you know the answer, but getting it wrong could cost you a fortune. So let's dive in.
Picture this. You walk into an open house, and the agent there is fantastic, super friendly, really helpful, seems to get exactly what you're looking for. You start opening up. You tell them your budget, why you need to move, how much you just love this house. But hang on, is that agent on your team? Or are they just gathering intel for the person on the other side of the table? Figuring that out is everything.
And the answer to that question all comes down to the single most important idea in real estate, the huge legal difference between being a client and just being a customer. I know, they sound kind of the same, right? But in the eyes of the law, they are worlds apart. And not knowing which one you are can be a very, very expensive mistake.
Okay, so here's the breakdown. By default, and this is the key part, anytime you first talk to a real estate agent, you are a customer. That's it. You don't have a formal agreement, which means you don't have representation. Now, they can give you facts and be helpful, but their loyalty isn't promised to you. To get their full, undivided loyalty and protection, you have to become a client. And that only happens when you sign an official agreement. And what does that agreement get you? It gets you something called fiduciary duty. Now, this isn't just a nice promise. This is a heavy-duty legal and ethical obligation that forces your agent to put your interests above everyone else's, including their own. An agent owes this to their client, but they absolutely do not owe it to a customer. It's basically the legal armor that protects you in a negotiation.
So all this talk of clients and customers can feel a bit abstract. Let's make it real. We're going to walk through a perfect textbook real estate deal where the lines are drawn super clearly. First up, let's meet seller Steve. He wants to sell his house, so he signs a listing agreement with an agent over at Acme Realty. The second his signature hits that paper, boom, Steve is a client. Acme Realty now legally has to protect his interests and his interests alone. Now, on the other side of town, we have buyer Chris. He's on the hunt for a new home, and he signs a buyer representation agreement with an agent from a completely different company, City Realty. And just like Steve, Chris is now officially a client. City Realty is legally on the hook to fight for his best interests. This whole setup, with two different brokerages in the game, is called a cooperative sale. And honestly, it's the gold standard. Why? Because it's crystal clear. Everybody knows exactly who's working for whom. There are no mixed signals. You've got team seller and you've got team buyer. Simple. In a clean deal like this, let's just say the total commission comes out to $20,000. Now that money is typically paid by the seller, Steve, and then it gets split between the two companies, Acme and City Realty. It's all very straightforward. But what happens when things aren't quite so clean? Right, because that ideal scenario can get messy. And it can get messy really fast. There's this little-known concept that can just flip the whole script and totally change who an agent is actually working for.
Okay, let's hit rewind. We're back in the same deal, but let's change one tiny thing. Buyer Chris has been working with that agent from City Realty for weeks. They've been touring homes, talking strategy, but he never got around to signing that buyer's agreement. He just kind of figured, she's my agent. So what does the law say now?
Well, without that signed piece of paper, Chris is not a client, he's just a customer. That means no formal representation, no fiduciary protection. Legally speaking, he is flying solo. And here is the absolute bombshell. That agent from City Realty, the one Chris has been telling all his secrets to, she's now legally considered a sub-agent of the seller's broker, which means her fiduciary duty, her loyalty, is now to seller Steve. She legally works for the other team. And the scary part is it just happens automatically. So when Chris tells his agent, I absolutely love this house, I'm willing to go all the way up to my max budget of $550,000, he thinks he's strategizing with his teammate. But he's not. He's handing his playbook to the other side. That agent is legally obligated to tell the seller that information. Her job is to get the highest price for the seller, not the best deal for Chris. He just gave away his biggest negotiating weapon. Okay, so now that we all see just how high the stakes are, how do we avoid falling into these traps? Well, it all comes down to understanding the rules of the game, how these agency relationships are officially created, and just as important, how they end. Look, you can technically create an agency relationship just by talking about it or even just by acting like you're in one. But honestly, both of those are a recipe for disaster.
They're risky, they're confusing, and they're almost impossible to prove in a dispute. The only real way, the best and safest way to make sure you are protected is with a clear, express written agreement. And hey, these agreements don't last forever. The relationship has a clear beginning and a clear end. Most of the time, it just ends when the job is done, the property is sold. But it can also end when the contract hits its expiration date, if you both mutually agree to go your separate ways, or if something serious happens, like the broker losing their license. If you walk away from this with just one thing, please let it be this: do not assume anything. That nice agent at the open house, the agent who's been driving you around for a month, unless you have a signed agreement that says they work for you, you can't be sure they do. Always, always, always get it in writing. And just one last thought to show you how seriously the law takes this stuff. An agent's duty to keep your secrets is permanent. That's right, years after the deal is done, even after you've sold the house again, your old agent is legally forbidden from ever sharing your confidential information. It's a duty that extends forever. And that just goes to show how powerful it is to know for certain who is truly on your side.